All right. Good evening, everyone. If you came here on purpose or if you came here by accident, you are about to get educated. Educated in what, you might say? Well, there's a galaxy that's far, far away, and there's galaxies that no man has gone before, but some people like to boldly go. And we're going to find out which one of those galaxies is the best today. That's right, we're going to argue or debate which franchise is better between Star Trek and Star Wars. I'm going to be your moderator and host today. My name is comedian Rob Coleman, and I am going to be a completely unbiased host. I have no dog in this fight. I just personally want to know which franchise is the best. So I'm going to sit here quietly while I moderate the debate and make sure. Well, hold on. It's a little hot in here. Let me just remember I have no dog in this fight. Let me just. Uh, it's hot. So I'm going to take this off. All right. So, like I said, I am completely unbiased. I don't have any leaning towards one franchise or the other. So all I want to do is just moderate and just make sure that everybody's able to get their points across. Ugh, this light is kind of bright. Let me just fix the brightness. Okay. All right. That's better. All right. Like I said, I have no dog in this fight. I am going to be completely unbiased so that you guys get a fair take on which franchise is better between Star Trek and Star Wars. I'm going to be completely unbiased. I promise. All right. So let's start bringing our contestants in one at a time. Let's bring in Matthew Scott. Matthew, how are you, buddy?
Hey, what's up, man? I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. As you know, I think that you're one of the funniest guys in town.
Absolutely. And tell them a little bit about which side you're arguing for.
I'm going to be arguing the team Star Wars. This is a classic debate that can be described by a Venn diagram. I messed up drawing the circles a couple of times, and then I drew the one circle, and then this is how much Star Wars and Star Trek overlap.
Mm-hmm.
So
If
yeah.
guys watching, if you pause it and turn that picture upside down, it's actually something really freaky. So don't do it. Don't do it right now, Matt. Don't do it right now because kids might be watching. All right. Thank you for introducing yourself, Matt. I'm gonna bring in our next contestant. You are arguing team Star Wars, right?
Team Star Wars.
Perfect.
Yep, Team
Now
Jedi.
I'm gonna bring in a good friend of mine, Tim Cornett. Tim, why don't you let them know a little bit about yourself and what side you're arguing for?
Hi, my name is Tim Cornett, life coach for dogs. I'm a dog trainer and a comedian. OG Cleveland comedian with Rob Coleman back
Cleveland.
Cleveland. From the year it was the year 2000. It was the year 2000 because I won the Ohio Urban Comedy Award for Best New Comedian
Yeah,
for the
Tim
year
used to be
2000.
black in 2000. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh my God, I was so much cooler then.
Yeah,
Uh,
he had a baby mama, pager, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, it's really. I started being white when the pager went out. If I I'm arguing team Star Trek
Perfect.
OG Desilu all the way to today. I was watching episodes of Enterprise to go to sleep, so I am well prepped.
Let's
Star
go.
Wars, you're going down.
Let's
Enterprise,
go.
Enterprise, he'll pick you up, but
And let's bring in Alex. How you doing today, Alex?
I am doing good.
And tell them a little bit about yourself and what side you're going to be arguing for.
I'm a comedian of about a year, 2 years, and I'm currently based out of Canton. For a good while, I was based out of Cuyahoga Falls, and I'm arguing Star Wars because, as you can see, I am a big nerd and have all the video games you could think of.
Which one is the best out of all of those?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to ask my Star Trek friends because I don't know if they have any video games.
Ooh, shots fired. Shots fired.
That's that's actually a pretty fair. That's a pretty fair shot.
They do have some phone apps. All right, let's bring in Dave. How you doing, Dave?
Hi there. Good to be here. Good to be with some fellow Northeast Ohioans. That's where I grew up in Cleveland and Akron, and I'll be defending Star Trek. I think I'm the only one here who's not a professional comedian. I'm a stand-up philosopher, actually.
Oh, that's kind of close.
I guess I can warn you. I'm close friends with the authors of both Star Trek and philosophy and Star Wars and philosophy. So
And
I'm
there's
very,
actually quite a few episodes that delve into philosophy, right?
that's right, and obviously Star Trek does it better. Obviously.
Oh, shots fired.
We'll get to
Okay.
that. We'll get to that.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Perfect. Our next person to bring it to the stage.
Hey,
Hey, Lane.
how are ya?
Wow, we just got more and more people popping in. I may have overshot this a little bit. I got 2 more people that just popped in. But why don't you introduce yourself to them, Elaine, and let them know
Well,
which side you're going to be
My name's
arguing for.
McKelly Lane. Those that know me from comedy know my stage name's Elaine. I've been in comedy for about 8 years now, although I'm currently on hiatus because I'm raising a toddler. So, a bunch of new material on that. I am definitely Team Trek. I've been Team Trek since my dad watched it growing up, the OG series. I've written fan fiction for close to 20 years for Trek.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have a writer of Trek material on
I
our.
didn't say it was good, but
Is it smutty?
it was a really cool collaboration between writers of all around the world on the internet. So
That is amazing.
yeah, it is fun. But
All right, now because I can only have 6 people on the screen at a time, I'm going to pop you out, Matt,
okay.
and I'm going to pop
Oh.
one of our other people in real quick. Jefferson, how you doing, big dog?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I'm doing good. Thank you very much for having me. So this is going to be a lot of fun. This will be, I think, a pretty lively debate.
And you trekked out, man. I see you got the symbol on and everything.
Yeah. Star Trek shirt, the red shirt, expendable. I've been a Star Trek fan since I was 5. So that's back in the days of Wrath of Khan. Started watching that when it was on HBO and just watched it all the time and got hooked on Star Trek. Been a fan ever since. Watched every episode, every movie. Not saying that I remember all of it. I'm old, got a bad memory. But yeah, I work in IT as a profession, so I'm not a comedian. Although I've been told that I think I'm funny. So there's that, and that I have a face for radio. So there's that as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this talk. I think it's always an interesting topic when you try to debate what's better between Star Trek and Star Wars. It's always pretty interesting because it's like, what's better, an apple or an orange? Well,
Yeah,
they're both different in their own way. But yeah, we'll get into more of that.
Absolutely. All right, Tim, I'm going to pop you out so I can pop somebody else in. I'm going to pop in Dante. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, what's going on? Dante Bazzini here. Do the comedies and host pub games around Cleveland. Representing Team Star Wars today. Gotta rep Star Wars. It was the first tattoo I got, as well as Star Trek freaked me out as a little kid. I did not.
Oh, no, we don't need to know about your tramp stamp. You got, is it?
Well, I'm not going to show it. I'm just going to talk now. Yeah, Star Trek never resonated with me. I saw that earworm episode or whatever, and just, nope, scared the ever living daylights out of me.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's one of the best, man. That was from the movie, right? That was from one of the Star Trek movies. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, we got you. We're arguing for Star Wars. That's absolutely perfect. Let me see. We got somebody else here that wanted to be added in. Alex, I'm going to pop you out just for a second. And let's see who this is. Max, are you there?
Yeah, I'm just here to. I'm friends with Alex, so I just was here to kind of watch him and support him, man.
Okay, I was like, you ever see that movie Unfriended, where the people are on the stream thing and there's one like mystery person that's like a killer?
I think I've seen the sequel.
Okay, all right. I'm like looking like, did I just invite a killer into the Star Trek Star Wars conversation? All right, Max, you're more than fine to watch, but please don't kill us.
Yeah, I'm a real person. Here's my face. So.
All right, perfect, buddy. Anybody else that is trying to pop into the stream, you can actually watch it on my YouTube channel at the little tag there underneath my name. I think it's at Are You Serious dash debates on my YouTube channel. So if you can't pop in and watch in here, you're more than welcome to go and watch it over there. Sound good, everybody? All right, let's get started. So who do we have in the room right now? We have Star Trek, Star Wars, Star Trek. Let's get one more Star Wars person in, and we'll go to our first question. Matt, I believe you are Star Wars. All right, perfect. So let me pull up my list of questions now. We are going to answer some of the most important questions that are on people's mind when they think about what is better between Star Trek and Star Wars. I believe there's a ton of different issues that people go back and forth and debate about, and we're going to start with the most important. So the number one issue that most people and Star Trek and versus Star Wars wants to know is, oh, hit the wrong button. Where's my... Who has the better braids, Reva or Michael Burnham? Who has the better micros? The world wants to know. We need to know.
Yes.
And how are these women getting their hair braided in the middle of outer space?
Well, for Star Wars, that's easily the power of the Force. Duh. Come on. She does it herself.
How? How would you do that yourself?
It's like the Force choke, but not killing someone, but braiding hair.
Okay.
It's
Boom.
the Force twist.
The Force twist, yes.
When I saw like literally both of these seasons, I think the Star Trek Discovery season was maybe just before this season of what was that, Han Solo, I believe, where Reva made her appearance. I'm like, okay, where are these black women getting their hair braided in outer space? Where's the episode where they went to the hairdresser and argued with a Jamaican lady for a half hour about how much hair extensions to use? I mean, this is crazy. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Who rocked the better braids, Reva or Michael Burnham? Anybody got an opinion?
I'm going to say Michael Burnham. I really liked how she wore her braids. I think it really fit for her character.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the things that might be an unfair advantage is we had seen that actress play the character with a couple different hairstyles, whereas with Reva, and I don't recall the name of the actress who played her, but it was just that one. So we got to see a couple different variations of Michael Burnham, but for her, I just think that the braids really worked as compared to some of the other hairstyles. And you're right. Where do you go to get this kind of work done? I'm sure there's barbers. There was a barber on Star Trek: The Next Generation that we saw a few times. Name is Mott, and he's a Bolian barber. So barbers, hairstylists, that stuff is all still there. It's still a thing.
The white guys had ponytails.
Right.
Yeah. Good to know. I could get a lineup and a fade in the future. I really like the fact that that's in.
I've never seen this Star Trek clip or that TV show or whatever. I just know my Star Wars stuff.
Mhm.
They're both hot, though.
That's a really fair point.
But I know Reva's character, so I got to go Star Wars, of course.
Yeah, both actresses, in all honesty, did an amazing job, especially Sonequa Martin Green with Michael Burnham. I mean, fans hated her, I believe, when she debuted. They were like, how the hell does Spock have a black sister? You know what I mean? Like, I think people like really hated her character when she first debuted, but she really grew on me. The storyline actually in that first season of Discovery kind of connects and makes sense, once you let it play out. And then she just was amazing as, the female lead of a Star Trek show. I mean, just amazing. And then Reva actually got a lot of fan hate, I think, for her character portrayal. But I don't know. I think, she did an amazing job as well. And shout outs to the actresses. If you guys ever run across this in your lives, I'm fans of you guys both, and I hope you guys continue to do great things. So, all right, I think we got that out of the way. All thoughts and minds, hearts clear.
Yep. All clear.
All right, let's go to our next question. This is just a personal one for me, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty. How did Star Wars drop the ball so bad on one of the coolest villains since Darth Vader? They went from Darth Maul to Kylo Ren. I mean, answer this for me, guys.
Okay, I can answer that
You-
immediately.
You see these pictures here? All of these pictures are pictures of Darth Maul, right? Tell me in which one of these pictures he doesn't look cool as fuck.
So if you want,
I mean,
Exactly.
come on. How do you not use this guy as your villain in the last trilogy?
if you watch the Clone Wars, the animated show, there is a ton more Darth Maul. He survived that fall with he was so angry, he made robot legs and the pit down. It's crazy. He's got a whole arc that kind of wrapped up with Rebels. He comes back and meets Obi-Wan. So they kind of played Darth Maul out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kylo Ren was terrible. I'll admit that. It was a terrible choice. It was just him getting angry at Dad for 3 movies. We didn't really need all that.
Absolutely. We got somebody that wants to say something in the room. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pop you in, Alex. What do you have for feedback for us, bud?
So Disney is actually to blame. They were going to make Darth Maul the main villain of the new trilogy of films.
Thank you.
They were going to have him, basically, the whole idea was basically that he was going to do all this stuff with the criminals because he couldn't get Palpatine's side. He was kind of bored of trying to kill all these Jedi. He went into hiding, and he started building things up slowly, like you see in the episode 5 through 6, like in between comics. And then it was going, and George Lucas was going to make it a little convoluted and bring a character in that shouldn't have been, but it's whatever with that. And it was going to give him a new apprentice, all that. And Darth Maul
that would have been
was
amazing.
King of the underworld. And the Jedi were going to have to combat with that at the same time as the will of the Force. And so it was like Darth Maul wasn't so much like the Sith antagonist, so much as he was just straight up the guy running the criminal organizations. Like his intentions were basically different than Palpatine's.
I would have paid money to go see that. I can't even tell you what the last 3 movies were even about. So
If you haven't watched the Clone Wars, highly recommend it. It makes the second of the prequel movies actually good.
you know what? Maybe I will jump into that. What is it, 65, 75 episodes?
Yeah, something like that.
I can waste
7
a couple of
seasons.
months on my life trying to catch up on that.
They're real tight. They're 20 minutes.
Cool fact about Star Trek movies is you don't have to watch any cartoons to know what's going on.
Cool fact about
shots
Star
fired.
Wars, you get to watch cartoons to know what's going on. Counter argument.
Hold on, we have Tim that wants to tap in. I'm gonna tap you out for a second, Elaine, and bring Tim in real quick. All right, Tim, what do you got, buddy?
The animated Star Trek show is among the best episodes. Yeah, so don't cheat yourself out of the Star Trek episodes, because then they brought in all the original voice actors, but they didn't have any budgetary limits because it was animation. So
You know what?
those
You bring
episodes
up
are
a good
great.
point. Hold that thought, because we're actually going to get into that in just a moment. So I think we were touching on the movies. Let's go ahead and dive into the movies here a little bit. Give me 1 second here just to pop on that. Boom. All right. So in order to rewatch the ultimate Star Wars in chronological order, we have to watch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 movies and 2 TV shows to get the entire Star Wars in chronological order. What do you think about that, guys?
Well, you're really just watching 3 movies in the Clone Wars. You're just watching those 3 movies 3 times.
I'm a little hurt you left out Andor, actually.
Yeah, you looked at a couple of shows, but just
Oh,
no
that's right.
special. Just no holiday special.
There's no holiday special.
We need to keep a PG-13, and some of that stuff is not.
Now I want to bring
I feel like
Elaine
that's
back
the
in.
problem with Star Wars. There's too much Star Wars, not enough Star Piece. We've got too much. It's sprawled too out of control.
Yeah, yeah, I admit.
Well, the thing that I will give Star Wars is that when it comes to a new fan, so I see this a lot in the Star Trek world, is when someone wants to get introduced to Star Trek, they always ask, what's the order that you watch things, and it's always the debate on chronological order or production order. The thing is that it's a pretty big elephant to chew, because you have over 800 episodes of Star Trek. So there's all the TV shows, plus you have all the movies. Um, and there's there's a debate on which way is the right way to watch Star Trek, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that with Star Trek, it can be probably a little more daunting to get into. Now, Star Wars seems like it's kind of catching up. They've been throwing a lot of shows out there.
Yes.
So that is there, but Star Trek gives it a pretty tall order when it comes to new fans.
The one thing I'll say about Star Trek is that they have three different eras, right? So if you look at their movies, they have the OG Star Treks that go all the way up to the bottom left-hand corner, right? And then you have the Next Generation movies, which I believe there were three of those. And then they had the reimagining of Star Wars, which were the last three movies. So in order to watch any set of movies, you have a lot less material to chew on per era. You know what I mean? Like if you just want to watch the Next Generation or something like that, you don't have to go back and watch the OG Star Trek guys for the most part to understand what's going on. But I feel like with Star Wars, you cannot watch the last movie without going back and watching at least three or four more movies to kind of fill yourself in on the blanks. So do you guys agree?
One of the I'm going to throw this out to you, to the Star Wars guys, because I think this is an interesting thing that I had seen in some of the discussions about the order that you watch Star Wars. So if you have someone that had never seen Star Wars, do you show them 4, 5, and 6, and then 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9? Just to see that big reveal of Darth Vader telling Luke. I won't spoil it, just in case there's anyone watching or listening that for whatever ungodly reason doesn't know. But there was an order that I had seen that I thought was really interesting. It's called the Machete Order. I don't know why Machete, but it's 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6. So you end off with Empire Strikes Back. You get the reveal. Then you go back and you see how it all happened. Then pick up with episode 6.
And then you watch the movie Machete.
Sounds like I have plans this week.
And then you want to cut your head off with a
That's
machete.
really interesting. I really like that.
Yeah,
Six is probably the best one for sure.
Yeah. I will admit that I've tried to watch the Star Trek movies, and in all honesty, I can't honestly tell you what's going on. Like it's like I guess I get lost in all of the political back and forth. The Star Trek movies are a little bit more individual movies, individual stories, I feel like. And it's a little bit more easier for me to take in. I want to hear from an actual person that has created Star Wars material about which one of these movies is best. I'm going to bring Elaine back in for a second. Dante, I'm going to tap you out, and I'm going to bring Elaine back in. So Elaine, tell me your opinion.
Yes.
As a writer, how do you feel about which Star Trek movie is maybe the best or most well written? And what would you tell a person that was looking to watch a Star Trek movie?
I'd have to say the first movie, the original. And with Star Trek, it got its start from television. So that was especially hard to do. And then to continue that through the movies is an amazing thing. So I will always be old school, Kirk, Spock, those guys. Nothing against the new ones that came out, but I did scream in the theater when they switched. Spock and Kirk in the
Mhm.
chamber.
Mm-hmm.
That just grossed me out because that is not true canon. You
Uh,
know?
yeah, they have been a lot more lenient with how Vulcans get down in the more recent movies. You know, Vulcans
Yeah.
are dancing, screwing, they doing all kind of crazy stuff. I'm like, Spock would have never did it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you know what? You know what make Vulcans awesome? Feelings.
Yeah, let's sprinkle some of that in there. No.
There's a great
No.
episode of Enterprise. I'm sorry, not Enterprise, but what's the latest Star Wars show called? Strange New Worlds. There's a great
Oh,
episode of
Star
Strange,
Trek. Yeah, Strange New Worlds.
yeah, there's a great episode of Strange New Worlds where Spock actually can't control his emotions and he's like laughing and he's like crying, like all kind of crazy stuff. They did a really great job with Strange New Worlds if anybody gets a chance to go and see that.
See, I
A lot of
haven't seen that.
callbacks to the original Star Wars series. Star Trek
Yeah.
series. I'm gonna make that mistake 1,000 more times, but
That's what I like. I like the old school because that's what originally got my interest.
yeah,
Sitting with-
there's an
sitting with
episode
Dad.
of Strange New Worlds where they have to fight a version of the Lizard Man. Remember the Lizard Man that Kirk had to fight on that planet by himself?
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah, the
those
Gorn.
guys are back in Strange New Worlds, and they are digitized. They made them like modern looking or whatever. It's not a dude in like a rubber suit. So if anybody gets a chance, man, I highly recommend Strange New Worlds. I think that's a great series. So, and last thing I want to ask about movies: are any of these movies Academy Award winners, Academy Award nominated? Do you guys know anybody nominated for anything?
Star Wars was nominated for stuff and won things like it's been nominated and won Best Score. Alec Guinness won Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars for Episode 4, and then occasionally gets nominated for like special effects.
Excellent. Okay,
And
that's what I
Andor
was
got
thinking.
nominated for an Emmy.
Special effects for Star Trek. I just
Mhm.
looked it up.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking. That Star Wars, I think, is probably just for the music alone has probably won more awards than the Star Trek franchise. So I think I have to give this one to Star Wars. I think. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Wait, no, as far as like accessibility or the watching it in order?
Awards, watching in order, the actors, accessibility. Yeah.
So watching it in order, Star Trek is just not made for that. I agree. That first movie of Star Trek
Mhm.
is wild. It's like they wrote it coming off of a mushroom trip. So like that doesn't count for anything. It's wild. But that's like, that they're free to go off of the program. So I think that's what makes it a more interesting watch instead of watching the same movie over and over again.
Yeah, none of the Star Wars movies seem to have been influenced by anything.
Right. Thank you, Shauna Wilson, for the new sub. I really appreciate it. So let's get into the TV shows real quick, guys. Now, Star Trek is, of course, the OG of the TV shows. I think premiered in '66, was it?
66. Yep.
Yeah.
September 1966.
Yep, September 1966, and broke a ton of first on the first TV shows. First, black female cast space or whatever, and was just groundbreaking. That first Star Trek, I believe, ran for 4 seasons, maybe
3
seasons. Okay, but subsequent series like Next Generation and Deep Space Nine have ran for several seasons. Star Wars, for whatever reason, can't figure out how to get a show past 3 seasons. I mean, what do you guys think? Better TV shows or better, episodic material, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars purposely doesn't make itself too many seasons. The Clone Wars is an exception to that. Rebels purposely ended on season 3. Mandalorian technically ended purposely on season 3. It was never meant to go past 4. And same with some of his other shows. And I do know that Star Trek continued making TV shows because of Star Wars. The creator of Star Trek saw Star Wars and contacted Hollywood folks and just said, can we get Star Trek back up and running?
Wow,
It would have just been a one and done series, like one series done. but Star Wars inspired the guy that created Star Trek to continue because him and George Lucas were like buddies. They both loved Star Wars and Star Trek just as much as
Oh.
one another's properties.
Very interesting. I never knew that. You guys know that?
Mhm.
There was an attempt to make a new Star Trek series called Phase 2.
Yes.
And it was when Star Wars came out, they transitioned it to a movie.
Yeah, they were having a very difficult time getting Star Trek Phase 2 off the ground. And once Star Wars came out, that just really changed the scope of everything.
Mm-hmm.
My take on this is with TV shows, that's where Star Trek was born and raised, was on television.
Mm-hmm.
And with Star Wars, it's the movies. So it's kind of, I'm not saying that Star Wars doesn't have good shows. There are some great ones. I really liked Obi-Wan Kenobi. I was very impressed with The Mandalorian. I thought Ahsoka was okay. I couldn't get into Andor. I couldn't follow it. Couldn't get into that one. But when it comes to Star Trek, that's where it all started.
Mhm.
So if there's any show that I'm going to binge watch, if it was a season of Star Trek or a season of a Star Wars show, there are certainly many seasons of a Star Trek show, especially out of DS9, that I would pick to do a rewatch on.
Right. Elaine, I'm going to take you out for a second. I want to bring Dante back in for his opinion because he is Star Wars. What is your opinion on the Star Wars?
Well, this is tricky for you because like Star Wars didn't really get into TV until post 2000, right? And I was just thinking about
Well,
that.
they had some cartoons before
Oh.
2000.
But I was thinking someone said Star Trek only had 3 seasons, and I was like, what? There's like 60 episodes. They just had so many more episodes in a season, whereas like the Star Wars shows are a lot more short and linear. Like you need to really follow them. So I mean, I like the Star Wars shows, but I'm not sure they are the better of these two choices, as much as I hate to admit it.
Yeah, I can agree.
They're different animals. Like Star Trek definitely has like enough spaghetti on the wall kind of atmosphere to it because like they had
But
to
you can
fill
jump in any episode and have fun with it, right?
Yeah, it's like 28-hour-long episodes a season that were like pretty much that's it. That's just how they were run. And Star Wars is like their TV shows are like a streaming invention. So it's like their whole goals are different.
I'm gonna tap Matt in back quick. I'm gonna bring you back in a second, Alex. I'm gonna tap you out for a second. Matt, what did you have to add?
I think it's important to frame it correctly that it is like comparing apples to oranges was actually the right like euphemism because like one's fantasy and one's sci-fi. So but as far as the Star Wars episode versus the Star Trek episodes, the fact that Star Wars can tell a story and then end it in 8 episodes. I mean that when you guys said that, Star Trek just goes on for episodes and episodes and Star Wars doesn't get past 3 seasons, kind of thing. Well, that's why. It's because they wrap it up.
You just made a super great point, man, that one is sci-fi and one is fantasy. Expand on that a little bit. What do you mean?
Yeah, so how ridiculous is it really that the one that's fantasy, Star Wars, is the one that has a religion based on it, and Star Trek, which is more based in science fiction and science reality, it does not.
Yeah, I when I was doing my little bit of research for this, they described Star Wars as a space opera. I was like, a space opera? I've never heard that before. Have you guys ever heard that term used to describe Star Wars before?
Yeah,
That's accurate.
Well,
That's a
where's
common
the fat
term.
lady going? Oh, if anything, Star Trek has the lady going. Oh,
Did you not see? Wasn't Lizzo in Star Wars in like the last couple? All right, that was mean.
Yeah.
That was mean.
No, we're not.
Oh
judging
yeah,
this.
yeah.
If Lizzo appearances was the metric,
Yeah,
Star
stop punching
Wars
down.
wins.
Stop punching
I just
down.
lost
Way-
another point for TV shows.
Way more Lizzo.
Do we not remember Klingon opera? There's many episodes with Klingon opera.
There is Gene Roddenberry, there was a documentary a couple years ago, Terror on the something like that, where Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, was dudes with L. Ron Hubbard and wanted a big yacht. So like Gene Roddenberry had like religion in the back of his head, and then just didn't. he just settled on making a bunch of money. Star Wars, I think they wanted to make a bunch of money and started a religion.
I'm
Well,
not seeing the
let's-
difference between when you want to make a lot of money, you start a religion.
Yeah.
Let's as we do this debate, let's just not think about the underlying racist tones of Star Wars history versus the very progressive civil rights stances that Star Trek took, or like the portrayal of slaves or incest that happened in Star Wars. We're just not going to think about that stuff as we continue this.
Yeah,
debate.
thanks for not mentioning that, Matt. I really appreciate that.
Like I said, I might have been on the wrong side of history on this one, but
So
me
I'm
and
gonna-
Dante are rocking the Star Wars tattoos.
I'm
We
gonna
got that in common.
say Star Trek is probably, because they're the OG of television series, probably have way more material than Star Wars as far as televisions. So I'll probably give the advantage to Star Trek as far as TV shows. So let's go to our next one. This is gonna be fun. We only got 20 more of these to go through, guys. So this is going well. So
I'll fight everyone to the death.
better cartoons. Now we touched on this just briefly.
Put me in here with just Star Trek people. Just put all Star Trek people. Let's go.
We
Better
nominate Matt.
cartoons. I mean, I'd be honest with you. I didn't watch any of these. I do watch Lower Decks. I like Lower Decks because it's funny as hell. But I didn't really watch Droids or Ewoks. You know what I mean? So what do you guys think about the cartoon series?
This is actually really tough.
Why do you say that?
Really?
Yeah, because Lower Decks is really good. I really like Star Trek the Animated Series. I think
Right.
it's kind of like a hidden gem, but I really like it. I think that's probably the most science fiction-y of all the shows. It's like those, you just had a bunch of science fiction nerds going nuts on Star Trek the Animated Series. So those are the best of them, but I also really like the Clone Wars and like the following shows. So I'd probably put them neck and neck because the garbage ones are still pretty garbagey.
I'm gonna tap Alex back in here for a second. Alex, what did you
So-
got, buddy?
Something to keep in mind too about Star Wars is the shows are meant for kids, the cartoons, but they go
Mhm.
pretty deep for it. They're to the wall. Like they got tons of action scenes for like stuff that's meant for like kids. It's meant for about like 10-year-olds is their main target audience for these cartoons. But there's a lot of scenes with beheadings, there's scenes with like political theatrics and like very deep undertones. Like it's meant to target kids more so as the others are meant to target adults on the Star Trek side of things. But Star Wars still keeps it a more adult tone in the background with like how they maneuver the politics, how they interweave the stories, how 10 episodes can unintentionally connect. Like one senator being killed during an investigation he conducted resulted in his homeworld switching to the Separatists and causing a giant Vietnam War.
Yeah,
a
that's
bunch of
way
day
more
elements.
complicated than the cartoons I used to watch when I was a kid. Yeah.
And it involved the
Oh.
Jedi turning to the dark side after they saw most of Palpatine's plan for Order 66 and all that. And Anakin was purposely removed from the battle so that he didn't get killed because Palpatine thought the Jedi were going to lose. And he wanted Obi-Wan and Ahsoka and all them to die, but not Anakin.
Wow. All right, I might have to tap in on some of the cartoons just to check them out. I wasn't really a fan when they first came out, and I was going to tap back in when I saw how many episodes it was. I was like, but I did see a episode tracker to let you know kind of what the primary episodes are to watch. So maybe I'll just go and watch those primary episodes and check those out.
And then the
Yeah.
cartoon original is also the original Clone Wars cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Samurai Jack style cartoon series. Like they put Samurai Jack on hold to make this from Gandhi Tartakovsky.
Oh, the same studio that did Samurai Jack did the.
Yep.
Wow,
Mhm.
interesting.
It's stylized the same, very little dialogue.
Tim, I'm
That's a
going to tap
thing.
you out for a second. I'm going to bring Elaine back in for a second. I want to get her opinion.
I was just gonna say real quick. I think the biggest advantage Star Wars has being animated compared to Star Trek, like the Force, the space magic, is such an element in all of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
And with animation, it just looks good. Like all the scenes where they're using the Force, it actually like looks right, or it looks like the vision they wanted for it.
Yeah.
Whereas in like a lot of the live action, it can come off a little corny or a little not super great. So I think the Force really shines in the animated shows, especially.
I do know there was a great fight scene with Mace fighting a whole bunch of droids.
Bunch of
And it
droids.
just made him like a complete badass because he's like using a force and like knocking like hundreds of
Yeah, and it's all with all just one consistent animation for the medium. It doesn't look corny or CGI heavy, or like some of the scenes in the prequels didn't look perfect. I'll admit it.
And Grievous is an absolute badass, man. I wish they
Yeah,
would get more with him in the movies, but in the cartoons, I did see some of his fights. And man, when he turns that hand into a fan blade, it's like, how can I fight this guy? You know what I mean? So yeah, I love how they depict some of the fight scenes. You're right, and Star Wars. So I don't know, man. I'm kind of leaning towards Star Wars on this one. What do you think, Elaine?
You can lean towards however you want. I have no idea. I've never seen a Trek cartoon, and honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. Janeway's scaring the crap out of me down there. That's
actually from Prodigy. Prodigy is a kind of an offshoot where this group of misfits find her ship, and she's an AI on the ship and helping them kind of guide it or whatever. I only saw a few episodes of Prodigy, but it seems like it was not that bad,
I don't know. Just that face turns me off. I don't know what it is, but like no. I'll have to check out Lower Decks, because that looks that looks interesting.
I love Captain Janeway though. I think first female captain, I believe, depicted in Star Wars or Star Trek.
A series, yeah.
As a main character in a series, yes.
Yeah. Very progressive, because what was that, like 90s maybe? Mid 90s, late 90s?
Voyager premiered in, I'm gonna have to look that one up. I want to say it was around 94, 95.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. And had a black Vulcan. Tuvok or whatever. I'm like, what's going on with
Did you just say Tupac?
Tuvok? What was
Tuvok.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do you think they was kind of messing around with something that sounded similar?
Yeah.
When they named him.
I don't think anyone realized it till just now when you said it.
Right.
It sounded like Tupac to me. I don't know.
If you lift his shirt up, he had Vulcan life on his stomach.
I think that was Tim Russ. He was supposed to be playing the same character he had played in Spaceballs, actually.
Oh.
Very interesting. All right, so our next question. Better series of toys. Now this one might be a blowout.
This is a blowout.
Yeah. I mean,
I got to give it to
the
Star
flicky
Wars.
lightsabers. The flicky lightsabers. Come on.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't. This is one of the only Star Trek toys that I actually have. This Michael Burnham figure, and it's horrible. It doesn't even look anything like her. I don't know if I could zoom in on it. It's a horrible figure. But I have it, and it's horrible. I do have the Uhura bobblehead as well too.
Now, but see, they have Trek has more toys than that. I mean, you can.
Now, my parents gave me a Rubik's cube and told me it was the Borg cube from Star Trek.
I think when it comes to the toys, the thing is that when you take Star Trek fans and toys, it's the collectors that are getting this. Mm-hmm. When it's Star Wars fans and toys, it's the kids kids want to play with the toys, and also collectors. You really don't get kids that are like, I want to get a Star Trek toy. So that's the thing, is Star Trek has really never been able to crack the marketing, the mainstream marketing. The only time that it was close was back in the 90s, the golden age of Star Trek. That's when you could get a lot of the toys. But anymore now in modern times, you can go into any grocery store, Walmart, Target, wherever you want. If there's a toy section, you will always
Yeah.
find Star
Mhm.
Wars. Always.
Yeah.
You have to really dig. I mean, to find any Star Trek merchandise, not even toys, any Star Trek merchandise, about the only time you're going to see that is at a convention, a Star Trek convention,
Yeah.
or a Comic Con.
Facts.
It's just not mainstream anymore. And so, yeah, I'm going to have to give it to Star Wars on this one.
Mhm.
So another thing too is you can have crossovers with toys and games. So for Star Wars, you can play with the Legos yourself in your bedroom and then go turn on your Xbox and play them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is there
And,
no
you know-
Star Trek Lego game?
I
No.
don't think so.
That
know
is shocking. That's really surprising.
I want to
Indiana
apologize,
Jones and
guys.
Star Wars, I think, are the only, those and Harry Potter, I think, are the only movie franchises.
And Jurassic Park,
Pretty much
Avengers,
the only ones.
Incredibles.
have.
A bunch of those got Lego games. There's got to be one in the future for sure.
There's
I-
one for the PS4, Star Trek Bridge Crew, Star Trek Resurgence. There's a couple out there.
I apologize, guys. I'm just noticing the private chat. I didn't realize how many of you guys were talking in the private chat, so I'm gonna be watching that more. I apologize. Some of you guys I was asking questions and stuff in the private chat. I'm gonna make sure to get you guys in. But I feel like Star Wars definitely is winning this one, not only because of their history of figures, but they dropped a neutron bomb on everybody a couple of years ago.
Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me how many I have in my house.
Merchandising. Merchandising.
Merchandising.
I
Merchandising.
love
That's for the
Trek,
kids.
but
They dropped an absolute atom bomb on the
Mhm.
industry with this little guy. I'm not even sure that he was supposed to even be on TV as long as he was. But they are literally, now correct me if I'm wrong, Star Wars people, they are doing a movie
Mm.
with Mandalorian and Grogu or something. It's going to be called Mandalorian and Grogu or something like that.
Yep.
Wait.
They were
The plushie sales were good.
They're replacing
Yes.
season 4 of The Mandalorian, and the guy Tamira Morrison, who originally played Jango Fett and now plays Boba Fett, said that they sidelined his character and even changed his show to accommodate for Grogu's popularity, and made the movie instead of a season 4 Mandalorian in part because of that. And they wrote him out of the script and everything to accommodate for Grogu's character and the popularity.
Yoda's a love child literally has a chokehold on the industry.
so that's what it is.
What's that?
They said Grogu, and I'm like, what? What? Because I'm not well versed in Star Wars. I was looking at what I thought was Baby Yoda. I really did.
That's what we've been calling him. That when we first saw him, that's what everybody was calling him. And I
then
think they revealed in what, season 2?
Yep.
Well, we always knew it wasn't Yoda, but we
Yeah.
didn't know his name. In the show, for the longest time, he was just referred to as the child.
Mhm.
But social media, just the world called him Baby Yoda, and it just stuck until
rightfully so.
right until his actual name was revealed.
That's just like such a slap in the face of Star Wars, because it's like, oh, I love Star Trek when they throw the ring into Mordor. Like, it feels like that with the Baby Yoda comment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he has a
Well,
name.
I'm sorry.
You're
I'm
fine.
gonna tap
Okay.
Matthew back in here because he has a guest with him. Let me see
Oh.
who you have with you there, Matt.
I'm here with the lovely Rosario Dawson.
Nice.
So how many actual action figures do you have?
This is the only one. It was like a random. My boss bought it for me because it was Star Wars, and he knew that I liked Star Wars. It was so. Thanks, Chris. But
And-
here, I've always wanted to kiss Rosario Dawson.
Okay, all right. This is
All right,
getting
it's-
all right. This okay. That kids.
They aren't
turn
even
your head.
married.
Dawson does not like that.
Tim, you have any thoughts on Star Wars toys versus Star
You know, I'm not a toy collector. Why doesn't Star Trek merchandise? Why isn't it merchandised like everything else in the world?
They
I
just
thought-
haven't been able to get it to latch on
Did they
to
have
mainstream.
like the phaser gun as a toy for a while?
'cause
Yeah.
they're concentrating on the technology. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They're bringing technology to real life. They're not worried
You could
about
probably
toys.
do like an actual communicator now, like you and your friends, like bloop bloop.
They have
I
that.
think that's
Yeah,
just
they
a
do.
cell phone.
They have that. iPhone is coming out with a touch thing that you could touch it and talk to people. I
Yeah.
saw a commercial for it or something like that.
Here's a thought, or you could
Elon
dial
Musk is
them
going to have them
up.
all installed in our heads before in the next 3 years. What were you going to say, Elaine?
They could use their phone to call somebody.
That's too
I
many
would've
steps.
thought.
Speaking of
Instructions not clear.
speaking of technology, guys, our next one goes into who has the cooler ships. Now, when I was a kid, I had a Millennium Falcon, so I might be a little bit biased on this. But who do
My
you
first
think has
car
the
was a
cooler
Ford.
ships in their franchises?
I mean, I think the Enterprise is cooler.
Yep.
Wow, I never would have thought that. Did you have a Millennium Falcon when you was a kid?
No, I did not. But
I had a Millennium Falcon when I was a kid, and it had like 3 different areas on it where you can play. You could take the back off, and it had a little setup where you could put Luke on a little peg and move a little knob, and he would fight the little hanging ball thing. And then the cockpit had its own little thing where you opened that and you could put like Han or Chewbacca in there. And then there was like another section that was like a little gunner section that you could put a character in there and like twist it and make it seem like he was shooting stuff. So the Millennium Falcon, man, when I was a kid, was probably one of the coolest toys that I ever had in my life. I literally threw it down some stairs to try to make it fly for real because I was too young to have a toy like that. Broke it into a million pieces, but it was fun while it lasted.
it always looks rough.
I know, right?
Like the Enterprise, at least they polish it every now and then.
Right.
Get a couple phasers through it, just put it in the dock, and it'll come out in a couple weeks. But the
Yeah, the
Millennium
Enterprise had a janitorial staff.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, my Star Trek note is lacking a little bit here. Can the Enterprise make the Kessel run in 14 parsecs? I don't know. I'm just saying. We got
good point.
on this
Good
old
point.
grimy Millennium Falcon.
And tell me something, Star Trek guys. I always wondered this. Why did they never put seat belts on the captain's in the captain's thing? Why do they never have seat belts? Anytime they hit a meteorite or get hit with a Klingon blast, everybody goes flying all over the place. What they invented all of this cool stuff, but forgot completely about seat belts. What the hell happened?
It's
That happened after the Republicans deregulated all the safety laws.
Oh, there we go. Plus, it's drama. I mean, you know.
The space Republicans. Just
Yeah,
correction.
I totally.
That's actually the whole premise of Star Trek, is all the Republicans went out into space to shoot stuff. Everybody left on Earth is just a bunch of wine farmers.
Alex, I'm gonna tap you back in for a second. Elaine, I'm gonna tap you out. I want to hear what
Okay.
Alex has to say about this. He's over here cracking up. Alex, what do you have to add, bud?
I mean, Star Wars gets the cooler ships because they have the space battles and actual designs, and there's a lot more to it. Like
Yeah.
with Star Trek,
it's more like you guys see.
it's more like CBS kind of controls everything, whereas like Star Wars, I mean, up until Disney kind of mess things up, have diversity. Like that right there with the Star Wars images is probably not even 1/100th of the different ships that Star
No,
Wars
not at
has.
all.
And
Right.
fans can just make a ship if they want to, and Star Wars will happily use it. You know, they'll repurpose any designs for projects that were canceled and keep the ships. And I mean, there's a lot more versatility. Like one tiny change to a TIE fighter makes it a completely different variant
Right.
and gives it a completely different name. They'll give it a different planet it was manufactured from and give it a whole backstory.
Right. Right.
And there's
Totally
like
agree.
5 video games where you can fly most of these ships. Pretty cool. I don't know if Star Trek has that.
In the
That's the
comments,
thing.
Sorry, in the
Yeah.
comments, Matthew says, "Fun fact: the Death Star is flat," which I think is hilarious.
Great point, Matt. Jefferson, I'm going to tap you out for a second to bring Matt in and see what he's talking about. I'll bring you back in a second, buddy. So you're a flat Death Starer, huh?
Oh my gosh, no, of course not. No, I believe in common sense. But yeah, again, with the different ships, I mean, most of them are warships, so yeah, they're gonna be dirty. The X-Wing is my favorite kind of ship of all time. I think it's the sweetest.
Yeah, I think I had one when I was a kid. You press the button and the wings separate or whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, again, just separate the racist undertones of Star Wars and the portrayal of slaves and stuff like that, and
And you got a good.
and
Now, I will say around the
that's my
time Star
running
Wars
joke.
came out, there was a lot of properties that were similar. You had Battlestar Galactica, you had Space 1999, you had a couple of other science fiction shows, and they all had similar ships to the X-Wing. Like, I actually thought the Battlestar Galactica fighters, um, fighter ships were actually better than the X-Wing fighters. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember those shows or those, ships or whatever, but Battlestar Galactica was right there with Star Wars. As a matter of fact, a lot of similar designs. I didn't grab any Battlestar Galactica pics, but I feel
Did
like
any
Star
of
Wars.
them have Frank Oz Muppets though?
No,
Yeah.
but they did have Cylons, which were very similar to stormtroopers. So, if you look at Battlestar Galactica, it's like, okay, Star Wars, what were you doing here?
Even Battlestar Galactica had better toys than Star Trek.
Yeah, yeah, 2000% agree, 2000%. And not only did Star Wars have a Death Star, but I actually found this out. The Borg actually has a sphere as well. I don't think it appeared in any movies, but it was in the comic books. So I wonder who did it best and who did it, the 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 best.
I
Has
just
anybody
found out
familiar with
about
the
that
Borg
Borg
sphere?
sphere, and I do not care for how they are spelling sphere.
Oh, you know what? That's probably me just going too fast. But
Oh, okay. I thought that was sorry.
right. That's me just typing at 2 o'clock in the morning and not realizing what the hell I'm doing.
So,
This one
does
might be a good
does
one.
that mean the Empire has a death cube?
The Empire?
I mean, if we get a Borg sphere, they should have a death cube.
Yeah, they probably should.
What
They
is
probably should.
what is
I'm
the
gonna tap
Borg
you out for a
sphere
second because I
do?
want to hear what Elaine has to say about this because she's been on the writing end of things.
They had death triangles for Star Wars.
Does the Borg sphere also blow up planets, or I guess what does that thing do?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Elaine, have you ever heard of the Borg sphere before?
A little bit. It's not really as popular as the cube, but it'll still assimilate.
Yeah, it looks like it's
So,
as big as a planet. Like, is that?
yeah, but I think they needed to design it better because I don't know. I don't like the looks of it.
Yeah.
So this thing assimilates the planet; it doesn't destroy it.
No, I don't know much about it. I know
Okay.
from the Borg that they assimilate, but if it's a sphere, who knows?
Safe
gonna
to
tap-
assume Star Wars has the firepower here.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Like-
Yeah.
I think so, hands down. Yeah.
I want to tap Jefferson back in and see if he knows anything about the Borg sphere. I'm going to tap you out for a second, Dante. Jefferson, tell us about the Borg sphere. You know anything about this thing, buddy?
Yeah, so the first time we saw the Borg sphere was in Star Trek First Contact. There was the Battle of Sector 001. The Borg had sent another cube to attempt to assimilate Earth. And the Enterprise E came in, and Picard took command of the fleet because the Admiral ship was destroyed.
Mhm.
They destroyed the Borg cube, and just before the cube was destroyed, a sphere came out. So the size of the sphere, it's it's tough to say. It's not as big as a planet. If I had to compare it to something, I would say maybe
A moon.
No, it's not. It's not that big either. It's not large. It's not that big, but I can't think of anything to really.
Is it bigger than a cube? It's bigger than a board
No,
cube.
it came out of a cube.
Oh wow!
Yes, it's less, a little bit even less than a quarter of the size of a cube. It's not a big ship. It's
Yeah.
small. It's like a support craft mainly. So yeah, the Borg sphere is small. It hardly has a capability to be able to assimilate a whole planet. I mean, I would say the sphere is probably about the size of a large shopping mall if it were round.
Wow.
So yeah,
The Borg sphere looks like a landfill, and Star Trek is supposed to be set 300 to 400 years in the future. So, like, what are they doing? Like, clean it up, get it looking good, like the Death Star.
They're recycling.
I'm gonna tap Tim in for a second. Alex, I'm gonna tap you out. Tim, I think he has to go. Tim, you said you may have to dip out.
I do have to dip out. It was great talking to you, Jefferson. I'll check out your podcast for sure.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Hope you like it. Yeah, Beyond Trek podcast.
Yeah, it sounds great. I will definitely check that out. So
Tim,
thanks
once you
for
shout out
having
your
me
socials,
on.
do you have any social medias you want people to follow?
Life coach for dogs for a mix of stand-up comedy and positive method dog training.
Excellent. Tim, thank you for tapping in, brother. We started out in comedy together like years ago, and I look forward to seeing what we do in the coming year, man.
2000.
Talk to you later, buddy.
Talk to you later.
All right, I'm tapping you back in, Alex. So I'm gonna we're getting close to the end of our hour. I want to fast track a couple of the next ones. So better weapons, phasers or lightsabers. You're in a
Ooh.
dark alley in the middle of the night, and a bunch of people are coming at you. You want a phaser or you want a lightsaber?
I would when you use that example, I want to say phaser because the phaser has a stun setting. You know, I'm not if I need to defend myself, I can do that without loss of limb or life on another person.
Right.
There's an option to do the stun setting. I could do kill if I wanted to, yes, but with a lightsaber, it only has one setting.
Yeah.
It's going to do one thing, and that's it. I think lightsabers are cool. They're great. I'd love to have one, but they are just those things are awfully dangerous.
The lightsaber is gonna maim.
Yeah, I mean, I trust myself around a phaser, not a lightsaber.
The lightsaber is gonna maim and dissect.
Exactly.
Right.
I'm gonna tap you out for a second, Dave. I'm gonna bring Dante back in for a second. Dante, you were saying some cool stuff in the chat. What did you say?
I'm gonna hurt myself with either one.
I'm amazed at the responsibility because my first thought was self-dismemberment. I'm cutting my own hand off if I'm using a lightsaber, not on purpose, but like, yeah, the phaser's the smarter weapon. Lightsaber, if you drop it, that's not good. That's gonna mess up your floor.
If you're not a Jedi, you don't want a lightsaber. I think, right?
You need the Force for the.
You need to be a Jedi or a Sith Lord to use a lightsaber. And plus, when a lightsaber is not on, they look oddly suspicious. If you had one sitting on your dresser.
Matthew said we're ignoring all the undertones in this series, okay?
That's a top drawer saber right there.
All the phallic. All the phallic.
And phasers have been shown to do so many things. It's such a can be such a utility tool. You know, whereas a lightsaber is just good at one thing. You know, honestly, it's over two things. You can deflect stuff with it and cut things. With phasers, you can warm up a rock to keep put some heat around you. You can use
toast
it to
toast.
You can toast stuff. You can cut things, stun somebody.
That's a fair point.
I will tell you, I've seen some really unique lightsabers lately. I saw, the one fan one that the one Sith Lord uses. I think we talked about Grievous. I saw one on an anime that anime Star Wars series that they have. I think it's
Star
on
Wars Visions.
Visions. Yeah, there was a one that had like an umbrella or something. It was like an umbrella lightsaber. It was like the coolest shit I think I've ever seen in my life. I was like, oh my god! If you guys haven't seen Star Wars Visions, some of those episodes are absolutely amazing. The animation and everything is like really cool. I don't know if they don't connect to Star Wars canon at all. If I'm correct, Dante.
No, it's like Marvel's What If, but for Star Wars, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Just individual episodes and just cool as hell. Have you seen any of those at all, Alex?
You're muted.
You're
I
muted.
think you're on mute, buddy.
I've watched all of Star Wars. I've even painfully watched the not safe for work scenes from the holiday special, and I've watched the Acolyte, which I guess was bad enough to be the first officially canceled Star Wars show. And I've even watched stuff that gets leaked, like Star Wars Detours and those kind of shows that never.
I liked the Acolyte a lot, and
The fight scenes were amazing.
Can I just say the whole space, since we're talking about like shoot offs, kind of, or like alternative stuff, the Orville versus Spaceballs. I mean, that's a no-brainer. The Orville's got like Ted Danson, Charlize Theron, and Seth MacFarlane, and the late great Norm Macdonald.
Are you trying to filibuster this debate right now?
Spaceballs.
Okay.
You got Mel Brooks, John Candy, Bill Pullman, Rick Moranis, Joan
Trying to
Rivers.
filibuster this debate right now.
To back you up too, remember, Seth MacFarlane has participated in tons of Star Wars parodies, whether it's Family Guy, Star Wars Detours, which is basically finished, but Disney won't release it unless people leak it online like they have. And then there's Robot Chicken. And he's done voice work for every one of those, even when he's not writing.
Oh, wow.
So I guess he likes it more than the Orville, really.
Jefferson mentioned something earlier. Could a lightsaber deflect a bullet? Like, it can deflect lasers, but if you got a lightsaber here...
I think if you were able to make contact with a bullet, which to me it seems like being shot at with the blaster, you have better chance of seeing it coming and reacting to it.
Versus
a bullet, yes, a bullet is so much faster. I think if you were lucky enough to make contact with the bullet, it's not going to deflect. It's going to like burn, sizzle,
disintegrate.
Right.
Yeah.
Gone.
Would it disintegrate, or would it just get hot and pass through, and now you got
Cause even more problems?
Yeah, right. Like, that's what I'm
I think it would melt. I don't think it's going through, because the thing is that's the tricky thing about lightsaber is you make contact with things and stuff doesn't go through it.
It just disintegrates every time.
Yeah, it would just disintegrate. Like you can't shoot through a lightsaber because you hit it on stuff and it makes physical contact.
It's literally supposed to be as thin and shaped like a sword most of the time too.
Yes.
But if you look at the prequels, when they got to bust through the Durasteel doors, they stick the lightsaber in there and it takes a second to melt all that.
Sure.
Right?
They got to sharpen their lightsabers.
Unless it's made of that shit that the Mandalorian armor is made out of. Because that's supposed to be able to stop lightsabers, right?
Or
it does.
Beskar.
Does it melt steel beams?
Like was featured in Acolyte and other media. It was canonized in a Thrawn story originally, but it's strong enough to deactivate lightsabers. And Palpatine wanted to make an entire army of clones wearing that armor in order to defeat the Jedi and make Order 66 fully successful.
That's not in the budget, man. That's so many materials.
I know, right?
That's so much raw metal.
I'm gonna tap you out for a second, man. I'm gonna bring Dave in for a second. Dave, what were you saying in the chat?
I saw an interview with Mark Hamill where he was saying he was upset about the new Star Wars movies when they have the lightsaber in just one hand, because he said he and his stunt director worked out some sequences where he would hold it in one hand, and George Lucas said, no, these things are 50 pounds. You need two hands to hold a lightsaber.
Oh wow, interesting.
Apparently, somebody also recently did a study or a slow-mo. Lasers on Star Wars move slower than bullets, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Ahsoka must be pretty strong because she wields 2 of them mugs like woo, 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 woo. Doesn't hit those long ear things she has. I mean,
Right.
That's talent right there.
yeah, right.
That's
All right,
talent.
let's fast track the next couple of questions here, guys. We got who would win between Emperor and Board Queen? Any thoughts on who you got
Q.
in a straight up 1-on-1?
Cute.
Somehow Palpatine will return. He can't die. He just somehow comes back.
You
So
can
does the
sit
Board
in a chair.
Queen?
All right. Unkillable villains. We love it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love the depiction of the Board Queen and how, I mean, with her being technology, she's just going to slide into whatever database, if there's a thumb drive or something, hanging out somewhere close by, she's just going to slip into that. And
Like hack everything.
yeah,
Hack.
exactly.
Is this the character with the scene where she's like a torso getting lowered onto
Yes.
a Oh, that's a really cool scene.
Yeah, very much. Very much.
I don't know if Palpatine has a scene as badass as that. I'm not going to lie.
Hold on, Matt. What are you talking about? Alice, I'm going to tap you out just for a second. Matt, what are you talking about?
I just noticed because I don't know my Star Trek stuff, but if you squint, the Borg Queen looks like Groot.
Oh, man, get out of here. No, she don't.
Oh, stop that.
Shots fired.
True.
Shots fired.
But
All right. Better Return from the Dead story. Khan or Thrawn? Are you guys familiar with these stories, or?
I don't know
You gotta
anything
read the
about
book to know
Khan.
Thrawn's, don't you? Or did they make that into a show?
Yeah, apparently he was supposed to be dead, but just made like a really big return on one of the in live action on one of the live action shows. I guess he's
It was an
villain from the books.
Acolyte. He was in the new Acolyte, but I guess they canceled it apparently. Then we found out.
Yeah, exactly.
Han didn't come back from the dead, did he?
No.
Well, I think everybody thought he was dead. From what I'm getting from the stuff that I watched, they thought he had died in some sort of big battle. And everybody like couldn't, but they was like, no, he's dead. I think it was like in a Mandalorian or something. They kept saying that Thrawn was dead or something.
However, Acolyte is the first thing in like from the beginning of the Star Wars timeline. So like,
no,
it makes
he came
sense
back
that
in
he would be
the
alive
last
then.
episode of Ahsoka, I thought.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It was
And then
because Acolyte was a prequel. That's like
Yep.
before all of the Star
Yep.
Wars stuff.
correct. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to our next one. Better good guy going bad story. Anakin to Vader or Picard to Locutus?
I'm deeply disturbed that that's not a picture of Picard. That's
Pinhead
That's
from
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser.
I was gonna say
My
bad,
that.
my bad. Better good guy going bad. Anakin to Vader or Picard to Locutus?
I'm gonna.
Oh, you know what? My bad. Crap. I keep getting-
RoboCop.
All right, Anakin to Vader or Picard to Locutus?
So close.
You're trolling us.
We're getting closer.
Oh, is that not? That's not.
No.
You're right. My bad.
Anakin to
Better-
Picard was a
Better
great-
good guy
There
going
we
bad
go.
story.
There we
Anakin to
go.
Vader or Picard
Yeah.
to Locutus? There we go.
This one I have to give to the Star Wars guys, the Anakin to Vader,
Mhm.
because
Really?
Anakin made a choice. Picard did not.
Yeah, but
Hayden Christensen
like it was
did not do a great job.
But it's the character, not the
Anakin's
actor.
choice
It's
was a
character.
point.
Good guy.
Like
going bad.
I didn't even know that Picard turned to a bad guy, but like I was just gonna give you guys this one.
Picard was captured and assimilated by the Borg.
Yeah.
It was it was
He like
against
kind of
his
gave
will.
himself up, I thought, right? For
No, Picard did not give himself up.
okay.
Mm-mm. And Anakin, it was all free will. He let himself get manipulated into it. But the thing is that no one forced him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So Anakin could exercise free will and choice the whole way there until his fight on Mustafar, when then he had to survive in the suit. Picard, he was captured, held prisoner, assimilated. So it's just a very different circumstance. So I would say, in that regard, it's Anakin the Vader, hands down.
I'm gonna plug back in Alex for a second. I'm gonna bring you back in a second, Elaine. Alex, what do you have to add to this discussion?
So technically, Anakin didn't choose because it was already predestined for him when he was with the father, the son, the daughter. He turned to the dark side when the son showed him his transformation into Vader, the Death Star blowing up Alderaan, him slaughtering the younglings. And the father wiped his memory of all that because learning all that turned him to the dark side in an attempt to fix his problems. And Anakin was told basically that it was part of his destiny, and he was forced to, by the Force, to become Darth Vader so that he could bring peace and balance. Because while he was Darth Vader, he then got rid of the Inquisitors who turned to the dark side and Palpatine. And it was basically almost no Jedi left either at that point. It was almost just exclusively him and his son, if you don't count Ahsoka, and some other minor characters.
Okay. Very cool. Very, very cool insight on that. Because I guess that connects across all of the movies, but I really, because it's a little bit in each movie as far as the transformation, I guess I kind of missed some of that nuance. So yeah,
the cartoons fill some of those gaps in too.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, perfect. We got a couple of more to go here. I'm glad Elaine tapped out because this is a little bit of misogynist one here, but we fellas, let's talk about it. Who has hit more alien poontang, Captain Kirk or Han Solo?
That's got to be Kirk, right?
Yeah.
Like every episode, he was taking home some different.
Well, what's funny, and I knew that was coming. The funny thing is about Star Trek that I noticed when I went back and did the rewatch of the original series. There are a lot of things that fans and general mainstream exaggerated about Star Trek, the original series. For example, there were really not that many times that Kirk was swooning or bedding an alien female. There were not many times at all that Shatner did the exaggerated delivery of Kirk that has been lampooned forever.
Oh, right.
These
we must go. Right, yeah.
Right. Beam me up, Scotty was never said in that sequence of words ever in Star Trek. So there are a lot of things that we created out of Star Trek.
Yeah. Mandela effect kind of stuff, huh?
Yes. Right. We created a lot of these things that we believe about Star Trek. However, I'm going to say that it's still Kirk, because although with Kirk, it wasn't as much as we created in mainstream. It's more than what was ever depicted out of Han Solo. Like, you never saw him so much as, like, I can't think of a time you saw him speak to any other female other than Leia, and I don't remember her name in Solo, Star Wars movie, but like two.
There was
one he married.
Dude.
Well, there was.
He had Chewbacca.
Han Solo was acting like he was fresh out of jail, trying to pick up a girl. Like, he seemed super lonely, and I could imagine like Han Solo would be like an 8 on like Hoth, but he's only like a 3 on Coruscant. So
he did get married before Leia. In one of the comics, it was revealed that he married somebody in a fake marriage as part of a heist and forgot to divorce her after kind of running away with the money.
Oh, wow.
Gotcha.
And Leia ended up meeting this woman.
Jabba the Hutt's cousin?
No, but I wouldn't be surprised.
So with
Leia met both of his exes, the one that he fake married and the one that he couldn't get with. And the one he couldn't get with ended up being friends with her at the end of the day. So,
oh, very cool.
Yeah, but who is his sister? A freaking princess, bro. The Wicked Witch of the East, bro.
Oh, and let's not forget, if you've ever seen the movie Pootie Tang, Han Solo does have a belt. So maybe.
Yes, at that day. Yeah, let's go.
Fair point.
Let's go, Han Solo. Better wingman, who you taking? You want you got to ride out. You know it's gonna go down, and you need your boy with you. You need your dude that's gonna be able to handle himself and have your back. You got Spock or you got Chewie.
I feel like this is unfair because like Spock is a wingman, but he's damn close to like equal. Where like I feel like Chewie is clearly a side character. Is that unfair to say?
Well, I mean, it depends on
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you're basing
Chewie's
it
probably
on.
not going to get a solo movie anytime soon.
So if you're basing it on who would you rather have with you in a fight, we don't have a good frame of reference to compare a Wookiee and a Vulcan strength. We know that Vulcans are stronger than humans. It took like see in the Mirror Universe episode of the original series, Mirror Mirror, when it was McCoy, Kirk, Scotty, and Uhura were all trying to subdue the Mirror Spock. So we know in any given situation, it could take 3 or 4 humans to hold down a Vulcan. Vulcans do appear to be as strong as Klingons. That's kind of debatable because we've seen humans be able to go toe-to-toe with Klingons and not have that much trouble, as compared to you don't want to tussle with a Vulcan. Now, with a Wookiee, the thing is that we've just hadn't seen many one-on-ones with Chewbacca involved, so that's tough. But so when it comes to physical part, that's a tricky one. I have a hard time being able to say I could tell you that I'd rather have a Vulcan than a Wookiee. But everything else, when it comes to logic and debate and choice and discussion, just Spock. I mean, Chewbacca's kind of a one-trick pony. He can rip the arms off of Gundark, whereas Spock has so much more utility.
Yeah, if it's a dick measuring contest, I think we give it to the Wookiee.
Right.
Chewbacca's got great
get past
networking
all that hair.
skills, and he can do handyman work. Put the goggles
Yeah,
on
but
and have him throw stuff around.
If Kirk goes down, maybe Spock steps up, or he's like one of the next 3 guys to take over in place of Kirk. If Solo goes down, Chewie's never getting the keys to the ship.
Right.
Yes,
you're right.
He's going to come have Leia take over. Like, there's a limit on what Chewie can do, unfortunately.
Spock has the leadership part.
I'm debating for the wrong team here. Where's Rob?
He said he's coming back. I just got a message from him.
Gotcha. But yeah, you're right. That's the other thing that goes in Spock's favor is he's got the leadership ability. He's got the command experience and all of that. Chewbacca has always just been straight wingman. Whether it's Han Solo or Leia or Lando or Luke, whoever it is, it's Chewie is always the wingman.
You're gonna make me learn a new damn language.
Learn how to speak Wookiee. Right.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough.
So that one I would have to give to Spock. I think
Alex, can you defend Chewie? We're not doing a
Well,
great job.
for one, Chewie can never be a bad guy. George Lucas made that a rule: no evil Wookiees. More or less, it can't be the dark side. So
I
there's
feel like the
almost
video
never.
games broke that rule.
Well, other than this little
Shadowlands,
video...
dude, Tarful.
Okay, other than this one little video game with the one bad guy, basically no Wookiee has ever been a bad guy in canon, and they can't be a Sith. Like, George Lucas went in and told them that they cannot do that, and they couldn't make you become a Sith and a Wookiee at the same time in the Jedi Knight games. So he forced Chewbacca to basically be a good guy. So Chewbacca had no choice but to be a good guy, whereas Spock is choosing to, because the franchise allows him to. So it depends on how you view like wanting the character to be a good guy, like by choice or by force, and the greater scheme of things.
I think Star Trek.
Wow, you guys are still here.
Yeah, I think Star Trek is Mike Tyson and Star Wars is Mike Tyson and Star Trek is Logan Paul in this scenario.
So
Because like
Can we ban him?
Star Wars is gonna get the W or something. But like that's a winner. The other one's the winner in everybody's hearts. Like I probably said that backwards.
All right, guys. I just got a couple of more slides left. Let me hurry up and get through these before my system crashes again. So cutest furball, Wookiees or Tribbles?
Tribbles.
You didn't go with Ewoks. I got to go Tribbles.
Oh, all right. Well, there we go.
There we
Ewoks
go.
or Tribbles?
I would.
Tribbles got to be right.
I think I would give it to the Ewoks on this one.
I do appreciate the fact that we learned that the Tribbles went extinct when the Klingons killed them all. We learned that in Deep Space Nine.
Really? I did not know that. That's very cool. I mean, I like Tribbles more.
Well, they did get brought back.
Did they?
Yes. Yeah. So, yes, the Klingons did eradicate the Tribbles, but the problem was there was a DS9 episode, Trials and Tribulations, that did a time travel back to the events of Trouble with Tribbles, and they did kind of a Forrest Gump kind of thing where they edited in the DS9 crew into the scenes of what happened in the 1960s original series episode of Trouble with Tribbles. And when they went back to their own time, Tribble had somehow
survived. Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? When you just kind of get on a train and you're not supposed to be on there, you kind of hitchhike. They somehow, and I don't remember the exact details, but they somehow went from they're in the past and they're back, and Quark's bar was full of Tribbles. So somehow Tribbles got brought back from that trip and reintroduced.
Yeah.
There's a little detail in between, like, I remember point A and point C. I don't remember the B right in between, but they did get brought back. So yeah, Tribbles are around again.
I'm gonna say Tribbles are cuter for one main reason, and I have proof. This is Captain Kirk trying to figure out how to make love to one.
Oh no, it's horrible.
Yeah, that is just the poof top of a poof ball hat. And that's just lazy prop people.
No, that's why it's wrong to wear fur. It's why it's wrong to wear those hats. Those are Tribbles, you killer.
I mean, Star Wars is guilty too. Look at the cantina scene with all the fake Halloween masks.
Oh, yeah. You got to go back and tap in and look at that.
I'm going to write an angry letter after this.
All right. Who's winning a shootout? Stormtroopers or Klingons?
A shootout?
Oh, that's Klingons.
Yeah.
Well,
Stormtroopers can't aim.
Depends on the Stormtrooper, depends on the variant, and they can edit their helmets. Like Iden Versio killed more TIE Fighter pilots in canon than Darth Vader did above the Death Star. She was considered a Stormtrooper.
These are this
okay.
is general infantry. We don't got any named Klingons or named Stormtroopers.
Right. I didn't do enough research to know. I just know Stormtroopers are notorious for not being able to
on average, you pair one against the other.
So would it be just basic Stormtroopers, or would variants count? Would like weapons be more than just a standard E11?
Wait,
on
you think a
paper, they're
Flametrooper
supposed
is a
to be
better shot?
great marksmen.
Yeah. And what
They
happened
were when they were clones. Then we started recruiting anybody.
And what
It's
happened
true
to
Stormtroopers can't aim, but somebody here pointed out that in hand-to-hand combat, Klingons are almost useless. One boxing class, and you seem to be able to take out a Klingon.
there I guess there's, like you said, different versions of Stormtroopers. They got the guys that fly the TIE fighters. What happened to the one big female Stormtrooper leader from
Captain Phasma or Plasma? Phasma.
Yeah.
She was supposed to be Boba Fett and like replace him, sort of like, as we're not going to make him like Boba Fett. We're going to get this really cool, awesome character, a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
And then she became Boba Fett in a bad way, where she was basically just held at gunpoint by Han Solo. Then they sprinkled in her having interactions in that kiddie cartoon series on Disney Plus then she chased after one Imperial officer, and then Finn killed her, and that was basically the whole story for her.
Yeah, I was like, what? I really thought they were playing her up to be like, a big bad of one of the series, and you know what I mean, and
The
they kind of
comic
played her
books basically just explain that she was power hungry because her heritage was
Mhm.
two villages fighting, and she joined the more power hungry of the two, and she had a chance to rescue General Hux in return for her safety. So her half of the new village that she was working with teamed up against the other half, eliminated them, and got to escape off world with Hux. And then she killed Hux's dad so he could advance to the role he had in the First Order.
Oh, okay.
Star Wars is really good at half-baked ideas in the movies and then finishing it in the comics and the video games and other things.
We're just gonna hit a couple more guys, and then we're gonna wrap up. Better midriff. Who did it better? Princess Leia Organa or Lieutenant Nyota Uhura? Who did the midriff better?
I feel like we got to check the Halloween Express sales to get a really accurate idea for this.
Yeah, come on now. We can see who did it better. I don't know why this Uhura outfit doesn't get more play around Halloween because I mean she looks amazing in that, and I still remember as a kid seeing that episode and going, "Ooh, okay, I think I like girls now." So, but anyway,
Now you didn't before.
I mean, I was a little kid and I liked toys, but after seeing this episode, I like girls.
He was trying to dodge cooties up until that point.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Right.
He said, "Give them to me."
But the Princess Leia slave outfit is like iconic. So maybe have to give it to Star Wars on this one.
Yeah.
Who does diversity better? And I think you hit on this, Matt. That's why I didn't want to dive into it too much. But you have Star Trek, and then you got Star Wars.
Star Trek has an episode known as the racist episode. I think Star Wars doesn't have that.
Also, Star Wars has thousands of species, really. So, like, that's pretty inclusive if you ask. No, that's
Most of them are humanoid, though. I actually found a chart. I wish I could bring it up here, but there's a lot more humanoid races in Star Trek versus, I'm sorry, in Star Wars versus Star Trek.
Oh,
Star
really?
Trek, you got aliens that are like, little squares or trees or whatever. You got like a lot. I think you got a lot more diversity in aliens in Star Trek versus Star Wars.
Star Trek, as it was being developed early on, like they were making these civil rights statements and part of that movement. Like I give that to Star Trek, like at 1,000%.
Yeah.
You're right, Dave. If not for the TNG episode Code of Honor, Star Trek could always win this one without debate. But that's going to be that sticking point there. We can't get it to go away. We try, but it just won't. However, aside from that one slip up, Star Trek made a name for breaking in that diversity.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Star Wars did not trailblaze anything with diversity. Star
they
Trek
did have Lando Calrissian, the first space pimp. I mean, I don't know if I've seen the space
first.
pimp.
Yeah, the first space pimp. Sure. Yeah.
But now at the same time, you got to make him a pimp. Really, that's the first black guy we're putting in this movie, and he's a space pimp. Come on. Come on.
Oh, good point. You're right. Good point. This one for diversity is Star Trek, hands down.
I think so. And I threw Jar Jar in there because we all know, guys. Come on.
Outside of aliens, Star Wars is not super diverse.
All right. Alien races. I think we kind of really touched on that one with that last question. Media and comics. I don't know, written media. You guys think Star Trek or Star Wars has a bigger? Because I couldn't really find much on either. I think but they both have comic books.
They feel pretty even on that one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
does Star Trek have a lot of like short novels or like stories from or
Star Trek? You said?
Yeah, Star Trek. Because I know Star Wars used to, but since the Disney buyout, they axed a lot of those stories.
Star Trek is huge on novels and comics.
I know the comics are huge.
Yes, but short stories,
There's one volume of short stories set on the Deep Space Nine station. There's not a lot of other short stories.
Yeah, they do a lot of technical manuals, a lot of manuals. Short stories is just not something you really relate to Star Trek necessarily.
Yeah.
That's because
right.
they
In
have to
fact,
be
in general-
confined by science and science fiction. Like, can't be fantastical.
Well, I mean, there's some moments like, how do you logically justify an entire planet full of Nazis or Italian mobsters?
Yeah. Have you guys been to conventions? Because I really want them to answer this one. Who has better conventions?
I
Well,
wish.
I've been to conventions, but just Star Trek conventions and like Comic Cons. I've never been to a Star Wars convention. But from everything I've seen, that's tough because Star Trek started conventions, and they're still pretty synonymous. When you think of conventions, you do tend to think Star Trek, but they're both powerhouses with conventions. I don't know.
Yeah, I think of the Star Wars conventions all the time simply because you always see the guys dressed up as stormtroopers or Darth Vaders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You always got, a bunch of different. There's iconic characters in Star Wars that people always want to dress up like. Not, I feel like not so much in Star Trek. Maybe you got some guys that want to be Klingons.
But at the same time, I feel like it's easier to go to Star Trek with a group of buddies and just all get the red Enterprise shirts and make it more like a group thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Or some Vulcan ears, yeah.
Yeah, versus like, you get your one really badass costume, but then you
Yeah.
got to go like look at everyone else. It's more individual.
How hard is it to find black Vulcan ears, by the way?
might be pretty hard. Now, if you go the cosplay angle, if you throw the cosplay into it, then I'm going to say Star Trek because Star Trek uniforms, at least in my experience, seem to be a little more readily available to people than Star Wars because I don't know why. It just seems like with Star Wars, there's not a lot you can wear where someone's going to be like, oh, Star Wars. Whereas with Star Trek, it's so uniform heavy. There's so much more to pick where someone will see you and say, yes, that's from Star Trek.
Well,
with Star Wars, you either have to be a stormtrooper, Boba Fett, Darth Vader, a costume that you put a lot of money into, an Obi-Wan Kenobi robes. There's not a lot of the Princess Leia outfit. There's not a lot of outfits that you can just show up in and someone will be like, oh, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of Star Wars stuff in uniforms and outfits, but it's not like Star Trek. Star Trek just has more cosplay, in my opinion.
And don't forget, they're not conventions.
The first time I went to a philosophy conference, the cab driver asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm on my way to a philosophy conference. I'm a philosopher. I work on medieval philosophy. And the cab driver said to me, oh, you're going to dress up like the Star Trek guys.
Yeah.
They're not conventions, guys. Remember, they're cult meetings because Star Wars is a religion. So that's why there's the robes and stuff. It's just
a gathering of like-minded people.
We quietly go to the Jedi Temple on Sundays.
Not a cult.
There's a great Courage the Insult Dog going to a Star Wars convention and going off on a bunch of those guys. Google it if you ever want to just laugh your ass off. He literally goes up to one of the guys dressed in Darth Vader and he has the little, monitor on the front of his thing. And Courage asks him, which one of those buttons do you press to call your mommy to come and get you? I mean, it's so funny, man. If you ever get a chance to see it, absolutely freaking hilarious. And I think we're going to wrap up with this last one. Better overall property. I'm going to give each one of you guys to state your case, and then we're going to wrap up. I actually put some YouTube links here to the latest trailers for the different properties. And I meant to, I said Bad Batch, but it's not really Bad Batch. Skeleton Crew is the latest property getting ready to come out for Star Wars. So I kind of screwed that up. So Google Skeleton Crew, guys, if you want to see the latest trailer for
Or
their
Andor.
what's that?
Andor's got trailers coming out too.
Oh yeah, and Andor too. Yep. And then Section 31 for Star Trek is a good series starring uh oh man, she just won an Academy Award. Come on, Rob. I'll think
Michelle
of it in a second.
Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh. Yep, Michelle Yeoh. I kept wanting to say Lucy Liu for some reason. I'm like, wait, it's not Lucy Liu. What are you doing?
Charlize Theron, Seth MacFarlane, Ted Danson.
Don't do that, Matt. Don't do that, Matt. But yeah, Michelle Yeoh is going to be the star of Section 31. Fans have been clamoring for that since they saw how badass she was in the Discovery series. So I'm really looking forward. I'm actually looking forward to both of those series. So let's start with you, Jefferson. Let's get your final take on a better of the two properties, and do you have a little bit more respect for Star Wars now that we've done this podcast?
I've always had respect for Star Wars. I'm a fan of both. Me having more knowledge in Star Trek doesn't mean I dislike Star Wars. It's just something that I know a lot more of. When it comes to the two properties, this is always a tricky question for me because you've got science fiction with Star Trek and science fantasy with Star Wars. I do think that Star Wars tends to be more readily available to a wide stream audience because of the fantasy element of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, every little boy can be a Jedi and have a lightsaber. Every little girl can be Princess Leia and go on adventures, et cetera, et cetera. Star Trek doesn't really lend itself to a very wide audience. But again, when it comes to which one's better overall, I think that's going to be something that can be debated from now until the time the sun burns itself out. And I don't think we would ever be able to come to a good consensus. But anytime I'm asked, okay, Jefferson, make a choice, make a decision, which one is your one? I'm going to have to say, even though I was exposed to both at an early age, Star Trek was just the one that latched on for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say that overall, Star Trek just kind of carries it. It's done more trailblazing. It's made more present day strides and progress in regards to diversity and inclusion and technology because of the science fiction, the science part of the fiction. There's not a whole lot we were able to get out of the science part of the fantasy with Star Wars. So for me, I'm going to have to still lean towards Star Trek.
Chronologically, I think this year, where we 2024, we're actually past the year where Star Trek was supposed to have started, right? I think
Big time.
Yeah,
Wasn't
right.
it
Like start.
2035?
I think. Yeah, like am I correct me if I'm wrong, guys? But when like the Enterprise launched, and because this is like the '60s when they were imagining when we would be traveling in outer space. So I think Star Trek probably takes place in like 21
I
or
believe
something.
Khan's ship was from 1994 in the original series.
Yeah.
Warp flight was happened in 2063, according to the events of the movie Star Trek First Contact.
Okay.
Now, there are certainly lots of events that have we've gone past in regards to the chronology, but if you're saying when in Star Trek chronology did warp drive happen, we're still 39 years away from when that's supposed to happen based on Star Trek.
A mouthful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, it's lining up pretty well. Most of the things that I've seen in Star Trek, we kind of have now. When you talk about, I don't think. Yeah,
they
exactly.
did predict the communicators, which ended up being similar to the technology for smartphones, stuff like that. Is very yeah.
We're getting close to the body scanners and stuff like that too. So
Star Wars technically did take place in the same timeline as our modern day because there's a book they were going to make but never did, in which it was basically revealed that Terminator robots made the humans flee Earth and they accidentally went into the Star Wars universe. So in
Wow.
modern times, humans had to flee a planet and went 100,000 years in the past on accident. But then there's also an offhand like comic series, like a short one in which Indiana Jones discovers Chewbacca and thinks he's Bigfoot after Chewbacca and Han Solo ended up on Earth, like crash landed.
Interesting. Yeah, very cool. All right. All right. Well, Dante, you're next on the list of better property and why.
They're both juggernauts of science
Absolutely.
fiction. Like if you're going
Absolutely.
to talk sci-fi, you're into one of these two things. Like Jefferson said, it's fantasy versus science fiction, really. I'm definitely more. I gotta lean Star Wars just because the clear good versus evil. It's a story you can sit down and root for one side versus the other. Star Trek, there's so much more moral gray, which is fun. I enjoy that, but it's tougher to, just kind of watch an episode or watch one of the movies and feel good about it. It's like, oh man, I want to get the whole story now. Plus video games, that's a huge one. The Star Wars video games are
I didn't
very
even touch on that
badass
because it was a blowout. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really wish Star Trek would get more into that industry. They do have that online MMO that's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta give it to Star Wars.
How about you, Dave? What do you think? The philosopher in the house.
If Star Wars had known its limits, I would be in Camp Star Wars. The original trilogy was a masterpiece, but as I said earlier, it just keeps sprawling and sprawling beyond what I think it was ever meant to be. And Star Trek, I think, actually has room to sprawl. If you want to make a new Star Trek story, you've got 8 centuries of history that you can place it anywhere in. I think Star Trek just has room to keep growing. Star Wars would have been better. It would have been the best if episodes 4, 5, and 6 were all we ever got, and if the rest were just left to our imagination.
Wow.
And perhaps to those of you who want to read comic books. Yeah.
You'd get rid of 1, 2, and 3?
To be fair, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, all that was meant to happen. Like George Lucas off the rip wanted originally 12 movies, and that's why Luke and Leia weren't made.
Good thing he lost that battle. Well, I mean, I've always said, anybody who wants to defend 1, 2, 3, simply tell me what episode 2 was about. Don't tell me what was happening on the screen. Tell me why people were doing what they were doing and what the story is. I've never been able to figure that out about Attack of the Clones. Ship explodes. Why? They're trying to assassinate her. Why? Well, you tell me, go read the comic books or watch a cartoon.
You gotta watch the cartoon. It's such a bad answer. I know, but it makes the movie make sense. Just 8 seasons of this cartoon is all it is.
No, but I mean, they're both fun franchises, and they both have offered us hours of countless pleasure since our childhood and during pandemic. And they've been. It was during pandemic I decided I'm Team Star Trek.
There you go. All right, and I think next up was Dante.
No, everyone.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Matt. I think Matt was next.
Yeah, if I had a kid, I would have them start with episode 1 and go through the movies from episode 1, because then it gets a little bit better before it gets worse, And I think in general, I'm just on the wrong side of this whole thing. I'm still gonna be a Star Wars fan for life, but it's because I'm too old now to change, and it's how I was raised.
Wait till you get to 50, buddy.
If I was
you'll be
raised
too old
as
to do anything
as a certain political stance or something, it's I'm gonna keep voting for Star Wars.
How about you, Alex? Let's wrap it up with you, buddy. You are very knowledgeable, and I feel like you're gonna bring it home for Star Wars.
I'll give Star Trek a fair bit of credit. I had someone introduce me to properly watching the shows, and I do like The Next Generation, and I do like Will Wheaton, even if he's in, The Big Bang Theory, which is my favorite spinoff of Star Trek.
Nice.
But I
Very
will
nice.
give Star Trek its credit. It has its issues with failing to make a fourth Star Trek movie with Chris Pine and Hemsworth and all that, but at least they tried. But I'm kind of biased towards Star Wars because it's like it's on the same playing field as Star Trek, even though it's trying to target specifically kids. It
Yeah.
has the ability to go further,
Right.
but Disney kind of reels it back. And Disney's made their mistakes with Star Wars, giving the licensing for video games only to EA and cutting writers and directors left and right, probably almost 20 at this point, and canceling tons of projects. But I give it to Star Wars just because fans get a lot of say, and it's like, even with what Disney's done with the current kneecapping and the limitations, there's still a lot in the past that Disney is willing to look at and bring forward, and people can still play on that nostalgia and have that to tide them over.
Absolutely. Great answers, all of you guys. I'm still Star Trek guys, but I do have a lot more respect for Star Wars after this. There's definitely some things I'm going to go and look up and try to watch. So you guys have definitely opened my eyes, and hopefully the eyes of whoever is out there watching. I think you guys defended both of your sides very well, and I look forward to seeing what both of the properties do in the future. Did you guys want to shout out any of your social medias before we wrap up?
What is Lower Decks on? I did want to ask that.
Lord Decks is on
Paramount Plus.
Paramount
Yeah,
Plus?
if you get
Okay.
Paramount, you can pretty much get all of the
Also,
Star
real
Trek.
quick, just out of
Empire at War, baby.
out of just kind of like piquing the interest of the brain. This is a great Star Wars game to look at. It's considered a top 10 strategy game, and it did so well that the creators of the game went so far as to try and let fans make their own games on the same engines. Like they've been willing in the past to let modders monetize actual video games off their engine before EA bought them. And they work with the modders closely. Like it's probably the best game in existence for mod support on PC.
That's a lie.
That's
a lie. Skyrim? Come on.
Well, I mean, the Skyrim doesn't like the people who developed Empire directly worked with the moderator, the mods, and they try to unlock features and certain stuff and try within the limitations with EA to make it happen. Like EA is actually considering making another game, and so was Disney for this franchise.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
If I can make a nerdy plug here, Star Trek and philosophy is on the bookshelves. Star Wars and philosophy. My friends Kevin Decker and Jason Eberly, they're responsible for these books. Very, very good books. For Star Trek, Star Wars fans, you just pick a chapter and spend a few days or a few hours, a week, whatever with it, and you'll learn a lot of philosophy, real good stuff, and have fun doing it.
What were those books called again?
They're simply called Star Trek and Philosophy. That one's called Wrath of Kant. And Star Wars and Philosophy Strikes Back is the other one.
Nice.
They're part of the pop culture and philosophy series that Lexington, I think, does.
Very cool. Very cool. Any final plugs, guys, other than those? All right. Well, listen, I think fans, if you watch this, there you have it. We've debated for almost 2 hours, and there's no real answer. I think it's a personal choice over which one you like the best. I'm a guy that believes that Star Wars leans towards trying to get kids. They're a little bit more into the marketing. I feel like Star Trek is a little bit more, towards the science fiction and really trying to hit that adult audience maybe a little bit more. But like you said, both franchises are very entertaining, very important to culture, and just fun as hell if you want to just take a deep dive into either one. So with that being said, guys, thank you for watching another episode of Are You Serious? Join us next month when we're going to pick another topic. I can't decide if it's I'm going to keep that a secret. You just like, share, subscribe, and I'll make sure to keep hitting you guys with fun topics that we're going to debate. Guys, say goodbye to everybody, and I appreciate you guys for watching, all who did watch.
Keep voting.
Again. See you later.
All right, guys.
Snuck it in there.
Person at some point, Matt.
Keep voting.